failed to record the debate. You guys are here tonight, right? So good job. You recorded it and you are here. And much bigger crowd than I thought. And again, praise God that all the kids showed up tonight because it's just wonderful. So give thanks to God for that. All right. Well, I'm Pastor Tay, and that is the hot seat. So there's a lot of hot issues on TV tonight with the debate, but we've got hot issues here tonight as well. And that's what live streams is about. It's not just to be hot for hotness sake, but it's an opportunity for us to really talk about real life issues. In fact, live streams, the inspiration comes from Psalm 1, where the happy man or the blessed man is described like a tree that is planted by the streams of water. And the streams represent the Word of God that streams into his life and makes his life just so much better. And so his life streaming, life streams. That's what this is all about as we bring to you life-relevant topics. And so we're going to continue our mini-series on anger. We began last week by talking about anger against God. And boy, what a big topic that is. And today, we're going to talk about anger towards each other. And that is going to spark a couple more. After today being more of an intro, next week we're going to get into some really serious stuff on domestic violence and what to do when things get really bad in the home. Not just spousal abuse, but child abuse as well. And so we've got some specialists that are going to be Skyped in, and I've got some surprises here waiting for you next week. And so we look forward to seeing all of you then. And then that's going to keep us going because the next category is child anger. And late breaking news is that the expert that we are talking to is from Alabama, and he has agreed to do a double session. He wrote a book on child anger. He recently, hot off the presses, wrote a book on teen anger and bullying. And so I thought it'd be great to invite the junior hires, and so they'll be with us along with Jeff Williamson, the principal of Covenant Christian School, and the whole school hopefully will come out. We're going to invite them to come out. That's October 17th as we talk about child anger, bullying, whatever you guys want to talk about in that whole category, you know, whining, frustration, rolling around on the ground, temper tantrums, things like that, plus some more serious stuff as they get into junior high and then high school, okay? So that's coming up. That's our itinerary right there. But we are going to begin tonight by talking about anger towards each other. And there really is two basic styles of anger. Okay, now I'm going to talk about bad anger right now, and then the second half of tonight, I'll talk about good anger and what we can do with the anger. But take a look at the screen. There's two main styles of bad anger. This is the stuff that is just a flat-out sin, all right? The first is what I call the externalizer, okay? This is the guy who lets it out. This is the woman who lets it out. Are you an externalizer? Somebody whose anger is very, very visible, okay? So when this person gets angry, I mean, it is over, okay? This person is targeting whomever or whatever. So the person, whoever, the person could be innocent, but that person's in the way, okay? And so that person's going to get it, or the dog's going to get it, or whoever. He is out to get them. And so he uses his anger to control and to intimidate people. Doug, I don't know if we can turn off these lights back here, but maybe that'll make it a little bit easier. I don't know. But not just guys, okay, because that's a stereotype, right? It's just guys who throw things and so forth like that. But the reality is that women do that too, all right? Just that guys are maybe, embarrassed to come forward and admit that. Well, a lot of women also abuse their husbands. So there are a lot of men out there that get hit by very expensive high heels, all right? So that kind of stuff is going on too, all right? So we're going to talk about the externalizer, the person who just completely lets it out. I mean, she could be the nicest person in the world, right, at church or at work, but every once in a while, because she's an externalizer, I mean, she's going to let it out, okay? She could be the nicest person. I mean, who knew? I mean, I thought Snow White was the nicest person, but even her, okay? Now, we're going to wipe the screen, and there is another style of being angry. what's the opposite of the externalizer? The internalizer, okay? The internalizer is the other guy or gal. Now, don't misunderstand. This person's very complicated, but he or she is just as angry, okay? Just not showing it, but just as angry because he's blown up on the inside. It's just a different style. So he clams up, so to speak, right? He's just a big giant clam. And so his wife scuba dives to him and says, "What's wrong, honey?" "Oh, no, everything's fine." But of course, he is just really, really angry on the inside. Now, the internalizer, I've already said he's a complicated guy, right? Because he looks like he's fine, okay? We know he's not fine, or we know she's not fine because she's smiling all the time. So she comes across as nice and very mature, under control. Oh, but inside, she is seething, okay? She is very, very upset. So look, I'm not giving any brownie points to the internalizer. We're going to say both are bad, okay? Both styles are really bad. So there you go. We've got the externalizer. We've got the internalizer. Question of the night. Which one are you? Internalizer, externalizer, or, not on the screen, both? Because sometimes it depends on the situation. You could be a externalizer, but then you go to work and you don't want to lose your job, right? So you internalize your anger, right? Or you're a really angry guy, but you teach Sunday school. You're not going to let it out on the little preschoolers, right? You know what I mean? So sometimes it depends on the situation. You might be both. Or you know what we see all the time in the news? We see internalizers who become externalizers. And then you hear people like the neighbors, they interview the neighbors, right? Put the microphone right in their face, and they're like, I don't know what happened. He was the nicest guy, right? Or all the school shootings, right? So it could go back and forth. All the school shootings you see are done by what? Quiet kids, right? The kids that never talk. They're in the corner, and that's why everybody's just blown away by it, okay? That they can't believe that this quiet guy that never says a word suddenly is pulling out a rifle and shooting everybody. But that's the internalizer becoming the externalizer, okay? So we're talking about some pretty serious and some pretty dangerous stuff right now, okay? We'll talk about the good stuff later. But right now, I'm going to just say that whether you are this style or that style or some crazy combination of both, all right? You're one style at home but another style at work, whatever complicated situation you're in, I'm going to say it's all bad. In fact, it's all very, very dangerous. And I'm going to propose, and again, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, but let me sit on the hot seat here and just say that there's something very dangerous about this type of sinful anger. And that is, sinful anger doesn't stay the same size. That's a very important thing you got to take note of tonight, is that it doesn't stay the same size. It grows. It gets bigger and bigger. So with the time that I have left, I want to give you some insight into how this bad anger grows, okay? Here's the first way that it grows, and that is it grows when you let it grow, okay? It's your anger, right? Congratulations, it's yours, all right? So you're the one that's going to let it grow. And the classic Old Testament example is Cain. We mentioned him last week, but I want to dig a little bit deeper. Because Cain started out as an internalizer, right? He was just upset inside. I mean, he just kind of didn't know what to do. But God kind of tried to head him off at the pass and saying, hey, why are you upset? In fact, God was trying to counsel him, saying sin is crouching at your door. It's talking about the internalized anger. All that complicated stuff, you're upset that your sacrifice wasn't accepted, whatever is crouching at your door, it desires to have you. Now, I taught you actually last year that the word crouching is not even a human word, but it describes an animal. In fact, it describes the carnivorous types that gets down really low. Because why? They're going to get up and pounce. And so the idea is that sin is like a wild lion that is getting down very low and about to pounce on you. And so sin is like that. It's not going to stay the same size. Watch it, Cain. It's not going to stay that same size where you're just dissatisfied or just a little bit disappointed that your sacrifice is not accepted, because you know what? You let this go. I mean, you let it go. It's going to be like a wild lion that's going to eat you up. And we know that's exactly how it played out. I mean, what did Abel do wrong? It's almost like he's an innocent bystander, right? He didn't do anything wrong, but he gets the brunt of it. And so that's what happens often in domestic violence as well. I mean, what did the 2-year-old do wrong? What did the dog do wrong? You know what I'm saying? We'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. I've got an expert, Dr. John Street. He's going to be Skyping in. And I've allotted him 10 minutes. And he's like, hey, it's not enough time. I need more. So we're going to give him a little extra next week. We got Officer Raul, and I got another very special guest that'll be with us live. We'll talk about this, how innocent people get the brunt of it. And this is the danger. And so that is the Old Testament example. Herodias is the classic New Testament example. You guys remember her? She was the scandalous wife of Herod the Tetrarch, not Herod the Great, but the son. And John the Baptist opposed their very scandalous marriage. And Herodias was very upset. I mean, she had some serious internal stuff going on. So let's call her an internalizer at the get-go. In fact, let's call her internalized anger a grudge, because that's what Mark called it. In chapter 6, verse 19, he said, Herodias nursed a grudge against John, that's John the Baptist, and wanted to kill him. But she couldn't, because Herod respected John. And so he couldn't do it. And so all he could do was just lock him up in the dungeon underneath his throne. And so there he was in the dungeon. And Herodias is thinking, I got to kill the guy. But how am I going to do it? And so she comes up with the master plan. That's the internalizer. Because the internalizer style is not to let it out. So the internalizer is actually a complicated person that manipulates the situation. So what does she do? She organizes a banquet. And then she cancels the regular dancers. And then she puts her daughter-in-law there, Salome. And then she dances the night away and influences the king. And then Herodias gets what she wants, John's head on the platter. And so that's the internalizer again. What's the point? My point is anger grows. Sometimes we don't think about that. But tonight, that's a big, big point that we're talking about. That it grows. It's going to eat you alive in the Old Testament example. It's going to lead to some serious stuff. And then you hear people like, I don't know how it got this far. I never intended it to get this far. That's because you let anger grow. You let it grow. Part of being a Christian is owning up. And so tonight, it's you. You're the one that's letting it grow. Wipe the blackboard. We're going to bring in the second style, or the second way, and that is, it grows when you let, check it out, Satan influence. You're letting Satan grow it inside you. Now, don't misunderstand the relationship between 1 and 2. It's definitely your anger, okay? But Satan has a way of influencing or making it grow. Now, the classic passage that describes that is Ephesians chapter 4, verses 26 and 27. There it talks about the anger that is inside you. Okay, now that's yours, okay, remember? That's point number 1. Now, you let it grow. You know what's going to happen? You are giving the devil a foothold. Now, in the original Greek, it's literally giving him a place, like a platform. It's the idea, or translated more loosely, it's the idea that you're giving him an opportunity. So your anger becomes an opportunity for him to make it grow and make it bigger. And so he exacerbates the situation. He kind of like rubs it in to make it even worse. Or the analogy I like to use is of a campfire. And so there's definitely a fire of anger that is growing. Now remember, it's yours, okay? It's yours. But initially, it's like yes, I'm a Boy Scout. It's your anger. Don't go anywhere. But Ephesians 4 is saying that Satan sees that anger. And part of his style is to fan the flame. make it bigger. And so you're a little bit upset at your wife. But now, he's adding more wood to the fire. He's reminding you of all the things she's done related to what she just did to you. And then you're thinking about that and your anger is growing. Oh, and then he or she, he reminds you of what the nagging, the constant nagging that she does. And now you're getting really, really angry. And then more stuff starts coming out. And you get more and more angry. And you feel like, you know what? This is not going to work. And when you feel like you can't get any more angry, he's like saying to you, this marriage is over. Let's talk about it. Now, if this is your first time tonight, this is kind of our format. I teach for about 10 minutes, and it gives you an opportunity to interact. And so there's all the information on the screen and stuff on your table too. There's texting, there's emailing. Go ahead. We are running a powerful Wi-Fi tonight. You text, we're immediately going to get it, and we'll read your text if it's appropriate or related to it. And we'll go for about 5 minutes,
and we don't
then
say
I've got
any
some
names.
more stuff.
It's all good.
So go ahead and send it in right now. But Chris, our DJ over here, has been Facebooking. You can follow us on live streams right now because he is live Facebooking. And it's great that you would do that so that you can like what he's doing, which then sends a notice back to your friends. And so it's all good. He's live Twittering as well at live streams 1. So the Twitter information is on the screen there. But Chris,
we got a question.
But I want to, Chris, what do you got? What do you got? What you been Twittering tonight? Okay, that's our Facebook right there. It's a little bit hard to read, but tell us what you've been writing.
I asked you, was skipping the anger of staying at home and watching the debate to come and discuss anger with us. Okay. And also posted up the information about interacting, the email account. So
yeah,
getting some information out there about anger.
I appreciate you doing that because definitely our Facebook is jumping a lot more than last year. So that's a great thing. Patricia is the person who is fielding all your emails and texting. What do you got, Tricia?
Yeah. Well, we have a question. It says, but isn't anger taught? What can those innocent bystanders of youth do as adults to break the cycle of bad anger?
Did you say abused?
No, but isn't anger taught? What can those innocent bystanders of youth do as adults to break the cycle of bad anger?
Okay. Let's save that one. Can you put a flag on that? We'll save that for next week because we've got domestic violence coming up, and one of the things we're going to talk about is what can we do to break. And I don't want the domestic violence topic to be just like the super ridiculously violent situations, the over the top, but you know, sometimes it's verbal abuse to things, and what can we do? We'll ask that question next week to our experts. That if you have a home where it is just a crazy cycle, what can you do? But the whole question, Tricia, of cycles is a very biblical concept because our Christian life is cyclic. And so we definitely need to talk about cycles and how we go back to the sin and how hard it is to break these habits. But we're going to try to remember to bring that back up next week.
Okay, we got another one. Do you have time?
Sure.
Okay. What are the best ways to control anger when it can get so strong at times?
When it can get so strong at times. Okay. All right. Wow, that's a big one. We can hit that from several different angles. When it's so strong at times. Well, the Bible has a lot to say about restraint. And so if you read Proverbs, you're going to find a ton of verses that talk about the man who exercises restraint. So first of all, to the person who thinks that they cannot control themselves, because you got to get that reaction initially saying, I can't help it, what have you. The biblical response is, no, you can help it, because we do that every time when we go to work, teach Sunday school, sit in church, we exercise restraint. So I think it's underrated, the importance of restraint, because we act like we're out of control animals. And no, we're not like a great white shark that couldn't help devouring us, you know. We're not like a lion that couldn't help it.
Right.
But we really are, we have the moral ability to make the choice to do it, first
Like in
of
the
all.
heat of the moment, when you're just so frustrated, like,
You know, there are a lot of things. Again, this is a big one.
blow up.
Yeah, I think there are
How can you
practical
rein
things
that
of
in?
walking away for a minute. There are, I think, let's take a step back from that
Okay.
and say that, and bring in a little bit of what the other text said about the cycle, because in a lot of situations, somebody who is flaring up like that does it on a regular basis, or when children do that. Now, when we talk about kids, there are times in the day when they usually whine the most or get frustrated the most.
No.
And so, you know, whether they're tired, hungry, or what have you. So again, we can hit this question from a number of different angles, but one of the angles does involve either walking away. It also involves recognizing which situations would be potentially dangerous and kind of preparing yourself ahead of time. I know a lot of people, for example, as soon as they drive in to their house and into the garage, they say a prayer knowing that the next 30 minutes in that house can get kind of crazy. And so they prepare themselves that way. That kind of question we're going to have to hit from about 5 different angles. There isn't like one answer that says,
Right.
here's how you overcome anger. It also involves, David, I know you're itching. I'll give you a chance. You're itching.
I want a shot at it.
Okay. It also involves, Tricia, a lot of perspectives spiritually. Like when a person is so riled up, it also involves a sense of entitlement. Like, I have this right. So there's a huge theological component behind this topic of what rights do you really have, the importance of humility, just a lot of theological. It's not just simple like 1, 2, 3 steps. I don't want to distill it to that too.
Right.
Wow, we can. Let's keep talking about that. But David.
First of all, Pastor, I want you to know I'm an externalizer, and
Okay.
I'm still angry at you for 2 weeks ago calling me a bad name, and it's growing every week.
Oh, no, I would.
But let me.
I remember
I
when he
called you a lot
you.
of bad names. I don't know which one.
The old.
I don't repeat certain ones. Anyway, let me give you the thought I had relative to that question, though.
Okay.
The stinky
In
word.
our discipleship class on Saturday, just finishing up with James.
Yes.
And you talked about, God literally talking to Cain, said this is serious
Yeah.
stuff to begin with. And then he warned him, and he said, a sin's at the door, but then you brought in Satan. I like to picture Satan at the door. Remember the James verse in chapter 4, where he talked about, hey, resist the devil, he'll flee from you.
Yeah.
We use that a lot, right? But we forget the sentence in front of it and the one behind it. And my point I'm trying to make here is that to stop your anger, if you know it's growing, it's getting out of hand, you got to have a transformation of your mind. You got to get that thought out and not just resist the devil, but the first sentence is submit to God. And so you got to put somebody else where Satan was, where your anger was. Says submit to God, then resist the devil, he'll flee from you. And then it says, hey, draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. So it's this transforming your mind. What is it Romans says? Hey, therefore be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that
chapter
you'll
12.
know the will of God. Perfect, pure, and acceptable. So
Yeah.
it's taking your mind and getting rid of that stuff.
I see what you're doing. You're bringing in a lot of things. It's not this sequential or mechanical process like it's got to be this, but as somebody who is in the Word like you, David, you're bringing in all these different things that have to be employed in order to overcome it. The relying upon God. I could even bring in Galatians chapter 5. Live by the Spirit as he's talking. That's verse 16 of chapter 5. As he's talking about the internal conflict that's growing, and actually uses the same word as Genesis 4. The desires, the sin nature that's desire is growing. In fact, you also brought in Genesis 4 where Cain was. The tail end, which wasn't on the screen, was it desires to have you, but you must master it. So there is a responsibility for you to overcome it, but then what you're doing is you're bringing in all the other angles of reliance upon God. I can bring in Galatians 5, reliance upon the Holy Spirit. You brought in our responsibility, the renewing of the mind. We can throw in the taking every thought captive. All of these things together, plus there's all kinds of other verses about accountability if this is a serious problem in your life. So yeah, We got to hit it from
Then
all
you
of those
said,
different
don't
angles.
let the sun go down.
Yeah.
That's a good stopper.
Yeah.
Gives a time element to it.
Yeah. Okay, we better stop right there. Just a lot of things. Okay, so we're going to keep on going. This is my next block for about 5 minutes or so, and then I'll give you guys another opportunity. But we got to talk about the good anger, okay? And that might get you guys going. But go ahead as this is going on. And I kind of like how you're bringing in stuff that's setting us up for next week with the domestic violence. Again, don't stereotype that as in these really crazy guys, but there are a lot of people and homes with serious things that I think, again, if you guys come out, you can relate to. And if it's prompting you tonight, go ahead and fill out the prayer request. We will take those cards tonight and pray for you, okay? But I want you to know, okay, that anger is not just some wild animal. Okay, I guess I already used that analogy of not a great white shark or a lion or some wild animal that's now got to be, what, tamed, put behind a cage. That's really not the complete picture of anger. But there's a good kind of anger that we need to talk about tonight. That's a picture that kind of makes me think about in the beginning, okay, when God was rolling out the heavens, creating the earth. And we want to say that God is the one who created all things, okay? The devil didn't create anger, but God created all of the emotions. And so God created all of the things, and He created them to be for His glory and for His purposes. And so there is a good part of it that's kind of getting stepped on, forgotten, and just completely ignored because of all the bad stuff that's going on. Now, we don't want to get the idea that after we talk about the bad stuff tonight, that we become a bunch of passive whatevers that don't get mad at anything. That's not what a Christian is. Because a Christian is supposed to get mad at a lot of the stuff in this world. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Okay? You see, anger it's like a 5-hour energy. It's the original one. God created to give us a boost, like an inspiration. And studies only confirm what God has already put into our bodies. And that is, when anger hits us, it just releases all kinds of stuff, especially adrenaline. And next thing you know, we're ready to go. We're ready to go. In other words, we're ready to respond. And who created that? God. God created it so that we can respond to all the crazy stuff that's happening in this world. Wars, famine, drugs, violence, broken relationships, broken churches. How come we're not upset about those things? We should be really upset. We need a little bit of righteous indignation. You know what I'm talking about? We need to get upset about a lot of things in this world. And so I don't want to create some lopsided impression tonight that anger's all bad and we just got to get it out of our lives. But we just got to balance it out. We got to bring the good anger back in. In fact, Ephesians 4, in your anger, do not sin. Meaning, have it, but just don't sin with it. Okay? God's angry every day with the wicked, right? We saw Jesus angry, and we need to be spurred on towards righteousness as we look at all the things that are going on in this world. Anybody upset about what's going on in this country? You know what I'm talking about? Anybody upset about how the churches are not doing enough? I mean, there's a lot of things we should be upset about. Things in our community, things in the homes. We got to get the families right. All of these things we should be upset about. And so it's very important that we understand anger in that way, that there is a good aspect to anger. So I got a couple more minutes. So let me give you 2 ways to use good anger in your life, okay? Now I realize you're going to realize it's not enough, but we're looking at the clock. The first is don't delay, okay? God created it so that it would what? Prompt you. So you need to understand, and this is a word especially for the internalizer who does what? Jam it inside because he thinks it's okay to just blow up on the inside and just seethe and hold a grudge and what? Be aloof or whatever, okay? So don't delay. God gave it to you so you can get up and begin to work on the situation, because what's going to happen if you delay? It's going to grow and grow, right? And so don't delay. In fact, Charles Haddon Spurgeon, one of the great preachers from the past, so many brilliant illustrations he gave. One that I like is he said that it's so much easier to crush an egg. You want to kill a snake? It's so much easier when it's about to come out of the egg. Okay? So much easier to kill that snake when it's just about to be born than to kill a serpent. And so he's just making the same point spiritually, that when you have sin in your life, you got to deal with it when it's small, because so much easier then, right? Later, when it's so much bigger and more complicated and snake-like, way more difficult to take care of that situation. And so don't delay. That's the first point. The second point is focus on the problem, not the person. God is giving you this anger, and it's not just so that you, suck it up or ignore it or, hey, blow it off, it's no big deal. No, sin is sin. You have to deal with it. But the way that you deal with it is, now that you're worked up, you have to focus on the problem and not the person. Now, I know some of you smart ones are out there thinking, yeah, but the person is the problem, right? I know you're thinking that right now, right? Person is the problem. What do you mean? Am I just playing a word game here? Okay, this is not a matter of semantics, okay? I'm not trying to fudge the two or whatever. I'm actually trying to make an important distinction between the two. Listen. If you focus on the person, focusing on the person would involve things like, now you're mad, okay? It would involve things like name calling. And so there's all kinds of that going on, right? You insult the person's intelligence, dummy, stupid, nincompoop, retard. How come we got so many names, okay, for people's intelligence? Physical traits, right? Fatso, shrimp, whatever, okay? Or character, you son of a, you bring up something to knock the person down. If you focus on the person, you're going to end up doing all kinds of terrible things. Disrespect, hate, condemnation. You're not edifying that person at all. That's what happens when you focus on the person. I'm trying tonight to make a distinction between person and problem. Here's how it works. If you focus on the problem, focusing on the problem would involve things like speaking the truth in love. Now you've already committed to the person. He's your brother or sister or your wife or husband, and now you're speaking the truth in love. Why? Because you're trying to restore the person. Or words of edification, because you're trying to build that person up. You're not trying to break him down. You're focusing on the situation, and now watch. You're isolating the sin. If you focus on the problem, you are isolating the problem or the sin. Now, I didn't just make that up. That's actually in the Bible. Matthew chapter 18, verse 15 says, if your brother sins against you, go and show him his fault. Now, in the original Greek, it's the idea, in almost lawyer-like terms, you're laying out the actual sin. So there you go. You are isolating the sin. You're not knocking, condemning, judging, belittling, insulting, but you are isolating the sin, and now you're focusing on that. Why? Because, look at the end of the verse. You're trying to win the brother over. You're not knocking the person. You see the difference between the person and the problem? So as you focus on the sin, what's the whole point? Or the purpose is to convert the person or change the conversation towards the sin. And as you do so, who are you inviting into the conversation? The sinner. You invite the sinner into the conversation. Why? Because when you invite the sinner into the conversation, you have won the brother over. You've isolated. Has anybody ever talked to you in a way, okay, where you knew the person was not attacking you, but was advising you, counseling you, actually challenging you, actually correcting you? Has anybody ever done that to you in a way that you did not feel offended? Yeah. People have done that to me, advised me in a way where I knew I wasn't being condemned. That's the way to do it. Focus on the person. Oops, did I say it wrong? Just testing you. Focus on the problem. Okay, not the person. All right, so that's next week. All the stuff about breaking the cycle, we tagged that text, right? We're going to have to bring it up, Trisha. and all the other stuff that's coming up next week, domestic violence. We have Dr. John Street, very generous with his time. He will be joining us for about 15 minutes. We had Officer Raul Alarcon, who's actually part of our Interact team. He was supposed to Skype in today, but he was called out on an emergency, okay? So he's probably running the streets right now, and I'm sure Officer Gus, right next to him, is running faster than him tonight, okay? So they will both be here very soon, but hopefully we're going to try some new technology next week, Chris, as we have both of them on the screen. We have never done that before in the history of live streams. We're going to have both of them on the screen, Lord willing. Pray for us. I think it's going to work. And then we'll have special guests here. There's going to be some great technology as we talk about this very important topic. But we're going to close in a couple minutes. What do you guys think? Okay, let's talk about it. Okay.
All right. We got a comment. It's more of a situation, and it's about preteen. So Dr. John Street, being that he's into that, he might be quite the expert. So maybe we can get to this one too,
okay,
as he could repeat this. But preteen gets angry, punches hole in the wall, slams his or her room door shut, and writes a note. Dear Mom, I hate you. Love, the person.
Still puts the love, though.
See? That is confusing right there.
Yeah.
I hate you, love, you know? So they're angry, but just how angry and at who and what?
Preteen?
Preteen.
Okay, so we're talking what?
That's already a
fifth or sixth grade?
confused situation right there.
Okay.
That's a challenge in itself.
So it could even be when he was a preschooler, or he or she throwing toys. I mean, so in other words, if he or she has gotten to this point where punching holes and stuff like that,
right,
that is October 17th. Next week is October 10th, where domestic violence.
Right. I just thought I'd throw it out there so we can be ready for it.
Well,
because I want to know the answer.
Dr. Lou Priolo, again, just today emailed me and said he's going to give us a double session. First session, 10 minutes, is on kids, whining, fussing, temper tantrums. And the next 10 minutes, we got junior hires coming in. That's preteens. And that's the time. He just put out a book. Again, the name is Lou Priolo. You can go to Amazon.com or anywhere you want. The child book, I'm going to show them to you when we get there, is called Heart of Anger for Children. The teen book just came out. It's called Get a Grip. And it's the companion series, and that's the time to ask the question.
Right.
Okay? But if it comes up next week, and if Dr. John wants to comment on it,
yeah,
fine.
absolutely.
I'm not saying we can't bring it up, but I'm just trying to tag it as that being the time. All right? So, hey, this is exactly what's going on. And you guys been keeping up with the news. You know, bullying, throwing things, I mean, bringing guns to school, you know, people getting stabbed in the bathrooms. These things are serious things that are happening. And it spills over, of course, to the home and vice versa.
Yeah. From
the home to the school and to the work. So this is crazy stuff. We've got teachers in the audience here tonight who know that this kind of stuff is happening in the classrooms too. So we've got Jeff Williamson coming on October 17th to talk about school policies and just a lot of things. So, you know what? I'm glad it opened up an important can of worms. But tonight, I'm glad you're thinking. Go ahead and write prayer requests. If you guys want to convert any of these things, and I forgot to mention, there's a little green card, and I'm going to end with this. There's a little green card on your table, and it's something just came out. And I thought of this week. This is my idea. And what it is a card that is not for you. Okay? Take it, but it's not for you. It is for you to give to a friend who is needing prayer. So please take it and give it to the person who, and here's a couple options. The person maybe cannot attend the prayer meeting, but wants to be prayed for. Or, I got this idea when I call somebody who's in the hospital, and he can't make it here tonight, nor to the prayer meeting, but he can get on a computer and email. So that's one of the options on the card. So all the options there are there for you to give to your friend to say, you know what, why don't you email us a prayer request? We'll get the email tonight, because if you send that email within the week, by Tuesday night or even Wednesday morning, hey, I'm getting it on my iPad. And I'm going to take my iPad right to the prayer meeting in about 2 minutes, and we're going to pray. And so it's another way to to get you guys prayed for. Your friends who are shut in hospitals, can't make it tonight, that we can continue to pray for them as well. But you still have 60 seconds to drop it inside the mailbox in the back. But we are so glad that you came tonight and that you guys are really thinking about this topic and writing in. Hopefully you guys will come out tomorrow night, next Wednesday night, because it is far more than the serious domestic violence, but we'll have a good time talking about that. Join us for the prayer meeting or clean up all this stuff, okay? We'll see you guys. It's in the small chapel over there. I'll see you over there.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks,
Chris,
everybody.
Bye-bye. We'll see you later.